Hey, beautiful people. It's Mark McLeod from Deep Down Music. Super happy to be with you all today. And this is the inaugural show of something I'm called Getting Deeper, which is really just sitting down with some of the producers, artists, DJs that you know and love, but maybe going beyond the usual things that you hear from them, going beyond, hey, what's the latest show? What's the latest release? And getting, deeper into their heads and just helping build deeper relationships between you and the artists that you love the most. And I'm super happy to be here with Fred Everything, someone I've known for a very long time, and honored to have you, Fred, as the first guest on this show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Let's get right into it. You got the name Fred Everything because way back in the day, you played a little bit of everything in your early shows. But I think people know you now as, one of the kings of Deep House. And so I guess two questions for you. One is is that fair to kind of put you strictly in the Deep House box? And second, how would you say, how would you describe where your sound has kind of come from and where you want to take it?
I mean, I think it's okay to boxes, whatever. Sometimes it's just if it's just to be able to find me better. I have no problem with that. After that, sometimes it's kind of silly. Even some releases that would be not so deep house. Maybe it was still when we import them on the site, that will still put them probably deep house just because it's easier for people, like I said, to find me. Maybe. Yep. So is it fair? Well, I don't know. I mean, I still think that I have a wide range of influences, but I guess I don't think I have like a major problem with it really. I think it's more up to people to decide really.
And where you recently did your first show under the All Is Well moniker as part of Mutech, which is an event that's historically more on kind of the minimal techno scene. I heard some extracts from that, kind of very ambient. Is that just a side thing that you're doing, or is that indicative of where you're kind of trying to take yourself or add to, I guess, your repertoire?
No, I mean it's a side project, so that's the whole idea is that I can express myself into a different way. So yep. I like that, taking things a little bit more electronic, and for this particular project, really went into an ambient album that I had written this past year. So as far as where my sound is gonna go, I don't know. It's like it's ever changing. I sort of started writing a new Fred Everything album, but then I got interrupted by a bunch of things, and one of them was the live show. So and it was kind of all over the place already. So I don't know where that's going to go. I mean, I was some sort of kind of jazzy, broken beat influences. I think at this point now, I feel like I need to been pretty isolated in the studio the past year and a half or so. So I think I'm looking for collaborations definitely.
Interesting.
I think that's gonna inspire me because it feels really lonely in this cave.
I think people are craving human contact. So yeah, that makes a bunch of sense that you'd want to interact with live human beings. It's funny if I think back on this apocalypse, and many artists, yourself included, started doing these Twitch shows, and curious. Two things stood out for me, or one thing stood out for me, and then a question. One thing that stood out for me was really just like your encyclopedic knowledge, and how if people really want to pay attention, you are there to educate them. And you would go deep into the archives and do kind of retros on specific producers, and you just have so much history to share with people. And so I really, really enjoyed that. And but just wondering for you, obviously nothing replaces a live show, but like how was that experience for you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was growing pains. First of all, learning all the technology, and I used to pretty much bring all my setup upstairs, which meant that it was pretty much like a full day. And it
Oh,
was really,
wow.
really exhausting. But it was sort of necessary. And it feels like, so I did it at the beginning of the 2020 lockdown, and then I stopped in the summer, and then I started
Mhm.
again when things got bad again, like around I think October or something like that. And then same thing, I lasted until yeah, kind of summertime again. I mean, I like it, and I might do it again, but um, yeah, when it comes to summer, you want to be outside a little bit, and there was like this. There's always this kind of hope that things are going to be all right. And in fact, in July, I got to play a few gigs, and that was actually really nice. Felt really like back to normal. Then this live show, and now it's like we still don't know when clubs are going to reopen. So
Mhm.
yeah, and as far as doing like specials, I mean, I think this is yeah, that's the thing. You don't really realize, like how much, having done this like all my adult life, how much music you and knowledge you end up yeah, collecting. So it's nice to be able to share. And it comes also with anecdotes, and which is fun. Like for example, we had I did an Ashley Beadle special,
Mhm.
and he was in the chat. Well, his wife was in the chat. He
Oh,
was,
no. Amazing.
and so all the stories came, like about different songs and all that, and who played on what, and so that was really cool. And so I think it's something that um, if I'm gonna stream again, I will definitely do those nights. They're very fun to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Certainly fun to listen to. And just tracks I hadn't heard for a long time, and really nice to hear them again. And yeah, really enjoyed them. Are there any aspects of, like, we've obviously just come through like the strangest 18 months, and especially for professional DJs who make their living going out and playing in clubs, like your world has been turned upside down. But is there anything you want to keep from this different reality as the world kind of starts to go back to some new normal?
Well, right now I would say no, because I'm really I've been really sort of calm and patient and hopeful and positive, and I'm pretty much reached my limit, so I have to be
Yeah.
completely honest with myself. I mean, when it arrived, it was nice. It was a nice sort of forced break, and I think it
Yep.
was it was great. There was a sense of calm, and there was some great things, but after a while it's just enough. So I think I can still get that, in my own life, and still travel, but now it's becoming
Yep.
so challenging because in Canada, most indoor venues with dancing are not reopened, and we have no dates in sight. And and trying to go, work outside, go to the US, for example, where you got to take two tests, one to go and one to come back.
Yeah.
So
That's right. That's right.
and promoters don't pay for that. You pay for that. So
Hmm.
it's kind of
Hmm.
tricky. So right now I feel like it's like a never-ending tunnel, the circular tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all kinds of barriers to try. I was in the US last month myself, and it's painful. It's a bit of a hassle, that's for sure. And if you're trying to do it every week, yeah, that really adds up.
Yeah, going for one night, like
Oh,
I'm
yeah. Seriously.
doing. I mean, it's a lot of hassle, and it's a lot of money too. But so it's, yeah, definitely it's becoming a little bit long. I'm seeing like what's going on in Europe now. It's a little bit easier. So it's almost tempting to try to organize something for a few weeks in Europe and then come back or something like that. I don't know, just to get back into things a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%. I'm supposed to be going to Amsterdam in October for a couple of shows at ADE, but now the Dutch government is on the fence about when clubs reopen, so we'll see. But I'm certainly
Oh
seeing,
yeah,
yeah, a lot more
I
stuff
heard
happening in Europe.
Amsterdam also. Yeah, but England, France is start to reopen and all that. Yeah. So
Yeah. Going back to the US, you lived in San Francisco for a few years, I think. And
yeah, close to
when
a decade.
I was that long, holy
Yeah,
wow.
8 years.
I
Yeah.
just wow. And so when I think of like San Francisco and Deep House, I think of like that classic, West Coast Miguel Miggs, JJ style. Like, did that rub off on you when you were there? Like, did that influence where you were either taking your DJ sets or your production?
I mean, funny enough, well, I mean, yeah, I had these connections for a long time, like because I've been
Yeah.
going to San Francisco since '95, I think, or '96, and most of these people I knew met the first time. Like I know I met JJ and Mark Farina, like my first trip. Miguel, I met maybe end of the '90s, but so I've known Julius Pap as well. All these people, like yeah,
Nice.
for a long time. But when I moved there, the sound had changed. Like I was working with Ohm Records, so I was in that world, but the sound was becoming more techno in San Francisco. Dirty Bird was just coming up. So at first it was a little bit of a strange. I felt like it was a bit of a strange time, an odd time for me to be there. But yeah, I mean, of course, like these things, these artists have influenced me. That sound has influenced me in the past. I was even at Molten Studios for a little bit, so Miguel had his
Oh,
studio.
nice.
Well,
Sure.
and so did Dirty Bird. Actually, were neighbor to me for a little while. But so what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, but basically, yeah. So that sound had influenced me, and then it became just another part, I think, of maybe the puzzle of like the music that I wanted to make. You go through phases, and you kind of go through influences, and then eventually like you arrive at a point where like your influence is basically like a melting pot of all your influences. And I think that's when it's interesting. So, because I think at one point I was also a little bit maybe tired, of that sound, and I wanted to
Yep.
move on. But then a couple years later, you sort of rediscover a certain aspect of that you liked, and that are part of how you make things. So I can't
Right.
deny San Francisco will always be like a very important place for me. There's no doubt about it.
On, curious about your thoughts of around technology and its role in music and how much you're embracing it or not. I see, a lot of outboard gear behind you. I know you've got some old school Moogs and other things when you were doing your Twitch shows, saw a lot of vinyl. But then you're talking about the All Is Well show and you're doing kind of more electronic things. Yeah, just what are your thoughts on kind of all this technology that is kind of, I guess, perpetrating and coming into music production and music kind of, broadcasting these days?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, because I mean technology obviously means that all these machines, that's how it may they appeared. So what aspect did you mean exactly?
I see it in a bunch of different areas. So, like for instance, back when you and I learned how to DJ, it was on 1200s with vinyl, and there wasn't a sync button. And now folks see the BPMs in some setups; they just hit a sync button. So, like the barriers to DJ have come down. You have things that tell you what key the track is in. You see similar things on the production side, right? For making music, where if you're not particularly musical, there are things that kind of can auto produce melodies for you. Just wondering how you think about either the DJing
Well,
technology or the music production technology.
to each their own, really. I don't think we should feel threatened by those things. It's like when drum machines arrived, drummers thought they would all lose their job. But personally, I think that there's a little bit too much like pre-cut and pre-chewed element to music. And what happens is that people are not searching for their own voice, but they are sort of relying on things that they have. So they're searching. I mean, I was giving classes at IO Music Academy in LA, amongst other, and mentorship. But one thing that I've noticed that a lot of people were asking, how to find the sounds and how, because it's an endless possibilities. People are scrolling through endless presets without really asking themselves what they want. What is it that they want to hear, and how can they make it happen? So that's why I was encouraging people not to buy everything that I have in my studio, but to have some pieces that will teach you how synthesis work, and how instead of scrolling through sound, you can actually make your own sounds quickly. So same thing with like all the chord, like all the stuff you see advertised on YouTube, like MIDI packs and things like that. If you look at synth tutorials or things like that, you're bound to get those ads. And
I get them all the time.
Yeah, so it's fine, but then what do you're never gonna learn. You're always gonna depend on things, and then what happens is that I'm hearing all this music that for example, if I'm somewhere and they're listening to Spotify, everything starts to sound a little bit the same. Not necessarily because it's the same style of music, but like the same chord progressions are being used. And at one point, it sounds to me a little bit like it could be made by AI, artificial intelligence. And I think we're very close to that. But and if you're looking at artificial intelligence, it should go like that. We are telling them what to do, not the other way around. So yeah, an interesting collaboration would be like that the AI learn your signature, your sound, your sort of reflex when you make a bass line and when you make a chord, and then there can be an interesting collaboration because it comes from you. When it comes just from sort of generic progressions and whatnot, then I don't know, it's a little strange to me. But that's the world we live in. So
Yep.
I also don't like either the nostalgia of, say, oh, we're gonna like when I get a promo and it just talks about like how this person only used hardware and they recorded to cassette or something like that. To me, it becomes a little bit. No, but it's true. It's true.
Really?
To me, it becomes a little bit like, well, we're in 2021. You don't have to do that, and if you do it, that's cool. But what's the reason? What are you're just trying to replicate something, and I think it's the same thing. If you want to get inspired by the past, which I am, that's great. But when you want to give it your own touch, your own personality, and you want to not just copy, like bring a modern twist to things, not just like what hardware you used, because I don't know, Larry Heard used it. Larry Heard uses Reason now, so
Does he? That's amazing.
yeah, so he doesn't even use like all this gear. So
And no one on the dance floor is going to care that track was produced with those constraints, right?
no,
It's either like an awesome track or it's not.
I mean, I do appreciate people who go the distance. I think it's great,
Yep.
but it shouldn't be that one thing that makes you sort of special. Your music should be, I mean, it's okay as a side note, but when it's everything, then it's a little bit too much to me.
What are your thoughts on, deep house is kind of the broad genre, but I've heard this term organic house kind of coming up in the last little while. And obviously organic elements, but I find it's got like a tighter percussion, almost progressive type percussion. Any thoughts on that? Do you play any of that?
I don't even know what that is. I mean,
Oh, really?
we used to say, we used to call organic things like, like from the, sort of Body and Soul clan with Joe Classell and Council Kevork and Danny Prickett, like the stuff they were playing or the stuff that Joe used to put out on his label, Spiritual Life. We used to call that, organic because it had all these live elements, like percussions and flutes, pianos and all that. So I don't know I can't really keep up with the new genres really. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I should know, but yeah.
It's a different thing these days than what you've just described with Francois K. So it's folks like Lee Burridge and All Day I Dream, Sébastien Léger, like those kinds of guys.
Isn't that melodic house? I thought that's what they were.
Sébastien definitely. Yeah, Sébastien kind of goes between, to your point about, hey, you release a track, Beatport's just going to stick it in deep house. Like I find Sébastien shows up in both places, but
no, you choose that. Yeah, the label.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But anyway, it's just a thing that I'm seeing. I've been playing a bunch of it myself because I love where deep house and progressive intersect. And even though some of the melodies are, to your point, more organic, like piano, flute, etc., the tight percussion that I like is in this track. So I was just curious if you'd ever.
Interesting, because organic
time on it.
Organic to me would mean more loose.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Anyways, I should look it up after the interview.
Yeah, it's a whole new direction for you. Yeah. Maybe last question for you, Fred. Is there anything you wish your fans knew about you that you maybe think they don't know?
I don't know. I'm not that serious, maybe.
Any misperception? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah, maybe I think I don't know if I don't know how people perceive me, but yeah, I'm really not that serious of a person, especially with people I know I know well, or with my wife, for example. Yeah, I like to have a good time and like to joke around, and yeah, I'm very good or very bad at pun.
I love puns. Good. Okay. So your dad humor game would be strong then. I like it.
I know. Yeah, I don't know if that's very inspiring for anyone out there, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making the time, Fred. I really hope to see you out in the world soon. I know you were in Calgary recently. Yeah, I really hope you get back on the road, and hope to see you in person in a show. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks, man.
You keep well. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.